You can tell when someone stops seeing you as family and starts seeing you as furniture. I figured it's just easier down here for now, Melissa said, her voice clipped like a nurse with too many rounds left. I stood in the doorway, clutching the doorframe for balance. My wrist still ached from the fall. A few more inches and I'd have cracked my skull instead of my pride. The stairs, I started. They're manageable, she cut in, already halfway back up. I looked down at the basement steps. Wooden, uneven, uncarpeted. A single bulb swung above, casting more shadow than light. I tightened my grip on the cane and shuffled forward. Each step creaked beneath my weight. My knees popped in protest. At the bottom, cold seeped through my shoes. The air smelled like wet cardboard and dust. There was no bed. No recliner. Just a stained mattress on a metal frame pushed against the wall. Boxes labeled Christmas decor and junk towered around me like gravestones. Thought, this wasn't recovery, this was storage. I sat slowly on the mattress. It groaned beneath me. "Dinner at 6, she called from upstairs. "If you need the bathroom, it's up here." The door shut. I stared at the concrete walls. My fingers tapped the cane like a metronome, trying to find rhythm in the unfamiliar. 2 hours later, she returned with a paper plate. "Hope you're hungry." She handed it to me without eye contact. Canned green beans, boxed mashed potatoes, and 2 chicken nuggets. I used to grill ribeyes on Sundays for her. "Melissa," I said, setting the plate aside, "when can I go home?" She blinked. "Dad, we've been through this. The stairs in your house are a hazard. You're not safe there anymore. I can install a lift." "We've handled it," she said too quickly. I narrowed my eyes. "What do you mean?" Her smile froze. "Nothing, just rest, you're still healing." She walked back upstairs, footsteps fatting like guilt down a hallway. Thought, I raised her in that house, changed her diapers in the hallway bathroom, hung her graduation photo by the fireplace. She didn't ask, she decided. And something in her voice, something about the way she said, "We've handled it," told me I'd already lost more than my independence. That night I didn't sleep. The radiator clicked like a ticking clock. At 2 a.m. I climbed the stairs slowly. The house was dark. I reached the living room. Familiar pictures stared back at me. Our old dog Max. My late wife Helen holding baby Sarah. But one photo was missing, the one of me and Melissa in front of the house, right after I paid off the mortgage. Gone. I opened the coat closet. No sign of my old green jacket, the one Helen bought me in '89. Back in the basement, I noticed my overnight bag was missing too. Just a single change of clothes folded on a box marked "Dad's stuff." "Handled," she'd said. Thought, if someone's listening, don't let silence swallow your story. It starts small, a skipped call, a missing photo. Then one day you wake up erased. The next morning, I waited until her husband left for work. Melissa brought coffee, too sweet, just like always. "Thanks for staying quiet last night," she said, sipping from her mug. "We've got a lot going on. It's just easier if you don't make things complicated right now." "What kind of things?" She hesitated. "Legal stuff," she said finally. "Financial, grown-up things." "I'm still your father," I said, eyes fixed on hers. "Not your dependent." She looked away. "You should rest." She left the mug and walked off. Closing thought. My cane may wobble, but my mind is still mine. She thinks this is over, that I've folded. But I didn't fight in Nam, build a life from scraps and survive burying my wife just to die in a basement. I reached for the coffee mug. Underneath it, a piece of mail. Addressed to me, postmarked 3 weeks ago. Unopened. Melissa had written in pen, already handled. My hand trembled as I tucked it into my coat pocket. Not anger. Focus. Because if they wanted me silent, they should have locked the basement door. The cold in a basement doesn't just seep into your bones, it seeps into your pride. The bulb overhead buzzed, flickered, and then steadied again. I sat on the edge of the thin mattress, pulling my coat tighter around my chest. The concrete floor pushed the chill through my shoes. I rubbed my hands together, trying to stir some warmth, but it felt like rubbing two stones. Upstairs, voices rose. Laughter, Melissa's sharp, short bursts, and Tom's lower, smug tone. "I told you," Tom said, his words muffled through the vents. "Once the paperwork clears, it's done." Paperwork? My grip on the cane tightened until my knuckles ached. I whispered to myself, "What paperwork?" The cane tip tapped the floor 3 times. I always did that when something didn't add up, an old habit from long nights balancing ledgers at the factory. I hadn't signed a damn thing, not for the house, not for the accounts. My handwriting was steady, my mind sharper than most men 10 years younger. So whose signature had they cleared? The basement door creaked open. Melissa's head poked through. "Dad, you need anything?" "Heat," I muttered. She forced a smile. "We'll get someone to look at it. Don't worry about the noises. Old houses groan." "It's not the house groaning," I said, staring at her. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just the truth." She exhaled sharply, rolled her eyes. "Don't start." Then the door shut again. Thoughtly. She used to sit on my lap as a child, tracing my signature on napkins, pretending she was important. "One day I'll sign things for you, Daddy," she'd say. Back then it was a game, now it was theft. The vent rattled, more laughter drifted through. "He won't know the difference," Tom said. "He barely remembers his meds," Melissa replied. My jaw locked. I remembered everything, every damn pill, every appointment, every scar. I leaned back, let the words echo against the concrete. "He won't know the difference." The bulb flickered again, throwing shadows across the boxes stacked in corners. My eyes drifted to one labeled FILES. I pulled it closer, peeled back the dusty tape. Inside, old tax forms, utility bills, and one envelope marked in my wife's handwriting. Helen's soft loops, always neat. But beneath it was something else, cleaner, newer. A white envelope, postmarked months ago, addressed to me. Melissa had written across the seal in pen, "Already handled." I stared at it until my vision blurred. Handled. My fingers shook as I tore it open. Inside, a letter from a law office. Language thick with legal jargon, but I caught the words: transfer, property, witness required. My chest tightened. I hadn't signed it. I folded the paper carefully, slid it back inside the envelope, and tucked it into my jacket pocket. That night, when Melissa brought another plate, reheated lasagna this time, I asked, "What kind of paperwork are you and Tom laughing about?" Her smile faltered. "Dad, you misheard." "I heard just fine." She set the plate down harder than she meant to. "You need to rest, that's all." Resting doesn't change a signature. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she turned on her heel and left, her footsteps stomping the stairs like a warning. Thoughtly. Helen always told me, liars reveal themselves in their silence. Not in what they say, but in what they won't. Upstairs, the phone rang. I heard Melissa answer. "Yes, this is Melissa Walters." Pause. "Yes, the paperwork is in process." Another pause. "Yes, my father's unavailable. He trusts us completely." The laugh that followed wasn't hers. It was my brother, once, when he stole from me and thought I'd never notice. The same laugh Tom now carried like a badge. I lay back on the mattress, staring at the light flicker above. Handled. Trust. Unavailable. Words spoken about me, not to me. Closing thought. I may sleep in a basement, but my mind doesn't rest there. Every word, every pause, every lie, I file them away. And the more they think I forget, the sharper my memory becomes. The bulb flickered once more, sputtered, then went out. The room went dark, but my resolve lit brighter than ever. They say control is an illusion, but I could feel mine being stripped away, one missing item at a time. The stairs creaked. I didn't look up. I knew it was her by the rhythm, polite steps pretending not to disturb. Then the scent hit me. Hazelnut, cheap creamer, and cinnamon. Melissa's fake version of comfort. "Morning, Dad," she chirped, holding out a mug like we were friends. "Thought you could use something warm." I stared at the cup. "Where's my phone?" Her smile dimmed. "It's misplaced, probably somewhere upstairs." "And my keys?" "Tom's looking into it." I didn't touch the mug. She sat on a folded camping chair near the dryer, crossing her legs like she belonged here. "Don't stress," she said, voice soft. "We're handling everything." That word again. Handling. I leaned forward. "Melissa, I want to go home, my home." Her eyes stayed on the mug. "This is home now, at least for a while. The house, there's things being sorted." "What things?" "Paperwork, legal stuff. Just signatures and filings. You wouldn't want to be buried in red tape." Thought the buried, funny choice of words. "I want my documents," I said. "All of them, especially the ones I never signed." She stood up, brushing imaginary lint from her jeans. "You need rest, not stress. We're taking care of you." "You mean taking from me?" She flinched, her tone sharpened. "You should be grateful we even took you in after the fall." I kept my voice steady. "I didn't fall. I tripped over Tom's toolbox in my hallway." Her silence confirmed what I already knew. Later, when the house settled into quiet, Melissa humming in the kitchen, Tom gone for errands, I started my search. I lifted boxes, moved bags, slid aside old winter coats. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I found it. A letter folded tight, shoved under the rusted furnace, half crumpled, yellowed from the heat. My name was typed on the envelope, but not in my handwriting. Inside, a copy of a transfer of deed. My house. My address. My name. Scratched out. Replaced. Melissa Walters in bold ink, dated 3 weeks ago. The signature beside it looked like mine, almost. But I'd been signing my name for 78 years. I knew every curl, every press, and I knew what this was. Forgery. Thought the Helen once said, "They'll never steal from you with guns, not family. They'll do it with ink." The front door creaked upstairs, Tom's heavy boots. I shoved the letter inside the hollow leg of my walker and hobbled back to the mattress, breathing slow, pretending sleep. Their voices drifted. "Tom, he found anything yet?" "Melissa, not a chance. I told you we're handling him." "Tom, better hope that deed clears. The buyer's expecting silence on his end." Buyer. So it wasn't just theft. It was a sale. They weren't stealing my house to keep it. They were flipping it. Flipping my memories. I opened my eyes, staring at the flickering bulb. My fingers tapped against the walker leg just to feel the paper still hidden there. At dinner, Melissa brought soup, tomato this time. "You doing okay, Dad?" I nodded. "That mug you gave me this morning, cinnamon coffee, just like Helen used to make." She brightened. "See, we're trying." I remember everything she made, even the recipes. I looked her dead in the eyes, just like I remember every signature I've ever written. Her hands froze on the tray. "Careful, sweetheart," I said. "The past has a paper trail." She left without a word. That night the lights flickered harder than usual. I didn't sleep. I stared at the water stain on the ceiling and imagined Helen's voice saying, "You still have time. You still have a name. Don't let them sign it away." Closing thought. Control isn't about who speaks the loudest. It's about who holds the truth when the silence sets in, and I had just found the first piece of mine. They took my keys, my mail, my freedom, but they forgot what I hide best, the things they never think to look for. The basement was silent except for the hum of the furnace. Melissa was upstairs clattering dishes, humming some tune she knew I hated. I waited until her steps faded down the hall, then pulled the box from the far corner behind the water heater. It was taped shut with brittle brown tape, labeled Junk Dad's. She never opened it. She thought everything I had left was worthless. I tore the tape, heart-pounding. Old receipts, a cracked photo of Helen smiling in the garden, a pocket knife dull from use. And then the things she'd forgotten. A phone, my backup, small, scratched, but alive when I held down the power. The screen lit up, no SIM card, but the Wi-Fi bar flickered strong. Thought the Helen always teased me for buying two of everything. Why keep a spare phone? She asked. In case the world thinks I don't need one, I said. I never thought those words would come back as prophecy. I connected to the network. Melissa hadn't changed the password since last Christmas. My fingers shook, not from age but adrenaline. I opened email, drafted one message, short and sharp. Sarah, it's Dad, where are you? I hit send. Minutes crawled like hours, my breath fogged in the cold basement air. Then the phone buzzed. Dad, where are you? I thought you were still in rehab. I gripped the phone tighter. Rehab. I typed back, basement, Melissa's house. She said I wasn't safe alone. What did she tell you? Her reply came fast. She told us you were declining, needed round-the-clock care. She said you asked her to take over everything. I laughed, bitter and low. My cane echoed as it tapped the concrete. Declining, round the clock. She'd spun my fall into weakness, my grief into incompetence. Sarah's next message, Dad, I'll come right now. I typed back. Wait, not yet. She's watching me. I need proof first. That night Melissa brought stew. She stood too long in the doorway, eyeing me. How are you feeling? Better, I said, spooning slow. Good, that's why we're keeping things quiet. Too many visitors can confuse you. I forced a smile. Of course. Her eyes lingered on my hands like she was checking for something. Then she left. Thought she didn't know the phone was already under the mattress, wrapped in an old flannel. She didn't know my youngest daughter was awake now, awake to what had been done in my name. The next morning I climbed the stairs slow, pretending I needed the rail more than I did. In the hallway I paused. Melissa was on the phone. Yes, he's comfortable, she said sweetly. No, he doesn't remember half of what's going on. He's practically a child now. The deed will process soon. I bit down so hard my jaw cracked. Practically a child. I turned back before she saw me, retreated to the basement, pulled out the phone, typed every word I remembered, sent it to Sarah. Her reply, Dad, this is elder abuse. She's isolating you. I'll call a lawyer. I typed, not yet. We need more. She's sloppy. I'll watch. You'll help me when the time comes. The bulb flickered above. I stared at the shadows moving along the walls as if Helen herself was nodding. Melissa thought she'd buried me beneath her lies. She thought silence meant surrender. But she'd forgotten what I told Sarah when she was little and scared of storms. You don't survive by being louder than thunder, I'd whispered back then. You survive by counting every second, watching, waiting. Closing thought. Melissa thought I was declining, but the truth was simpler. I was counting. And when the moment came, she'd learned the difference between silence and strategy. The phone buzzed again under my pillow. Sarah's words glowed on the cracked screen. I believe you, Dad, I'm with you. For the first time in weeks, the basement didn't feel quite so cold. Sometimes rescue doesn't come with sirens. It comes with a knock, loud, insistent, and full of love that refuses to be silenced. The first knock was sharp, then again, louder. I froze halfway through folding my blanket. Upstairs, the faucet turned off. Melissa's steps paused. Then her voice, tight, rehearsed, Sarah. Where is he? Sarah's voice was like thunder in heels. Where is Dad? Calm down, Melissa snapped. Why are you even here? You've kept him in the basement. Are you out of your mind? I stood, my cane hit the cement. The old pull chain light swung as I shuffled toward the stairs. Then the sound I hadn't heard in months, footsteps running toward me. Dad! Sarah's face appeared at the top of the stairs, wild with panic, her mascara already smudged. Dad, oh my God! She descended fast, skipping steps. Her eyes darted over the concrete walls, the bare bulb, the mildew stains like bruises on the foundation. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat had closed around something too thick to swallow. She reached the bottom and stopped, breathing hard. You're freezing. I'm fine, I whispered. No, you're not. What the hell is this? She spun around. There's no heat down here, no proper bed, and she told me you were in a rehab facility. I sat down on the edge of the cot. She lied to all of you. Sarah dropped to her knees in front of me. Why didn't you call sooner? I only just found the backup phone. She took the other. Her face twisted. Took your phone. And my keys, and my mail. I lifted the edge of the mattress and pulled out the envelope with the forged deed, and tried to take my house. She opened the envelope, hands trembling. Read the lines, her mouth parted in horror. You never signed this. No. She clutched the paper. This is criminal. I nodded. I know. Thoughtly. There are moments where you don't cry, not because you're strong, but because the grief has already been spent in silence. I'd wept inside these walls too many times. What was left now was strategy. That night Sarah stayed in the basement, refused to speak to Melissa. Melissa knocked once. Sarah, we can talk about this like adults. Sarah didn't answer. We sat with mugs of instant soup and my old flannel thrown over our legs. The light buzzed above us like a dying insect. I want to know everything, Sarah said, from the start. So I told her. About the envelope she forgot to mail. About the deed. About Tom's whisper through the vent once the paperwork clears. About the lie to everyone that I needed 24-hour care. About the buyer waiting in silence for a house that wasn't hers to sell. When I finished, Sarah pressed her hands to her face. Jesus, Dad. I didn't flinch. I was a fool. No, she said fiercely. You were trusting. You loved her. She was always the ambitious one. She was always the selfish one, Sarah corrected. I looked at her. What now? She inhaled. We get a lawyer, we call the county, we check if anything's been processed legally. And the deed? I'll find out if it's recorded. If it's not, we still have time. I nodded slowly. You believe me? Of course I do. You're my father. Thoughtly. That sentence, 5 words long, did more to restore my spine than a decade of medical therapy. She squeezed my hand. We're going to fix this, Dad, together. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I believed someone. Upstairs I heard Melissa packing, talking on the phone, a muffled, he found it, how? Sarah looked up. She's scared. She should be. Sarah turned back to me. She picked the wrong daughter to cut out, and the wrong old man to bury. Closing thought. I had been silenced, boxed, buried, but now the walls had cracks. The light was leaking in, and Melissa had no idea the storm she just let into her house. Betrayal doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears your blood. The next morning, Sarah's coffee went cold on the table beside her laptop. She hadn't stopped scrolling for over an hour. Dad, she said finally, eyes locked on the screen, did you know your bank statements haven't come here in over 6 months? I looked up from the cot. Melissa said everything went digital, that paper statements were outdated. Sarah's lips tightened. She rerouted them, every notice, every alert set to go to her email address, not yours. My hands clenched, and the bank let that happen. She had power of attorney documents, fake ones, I'm guessing. I'm going to dig up your original signature to compare. Check the coffee can in my workshop. Back corner. Signed papers from when Helen and I refinanced in '98. Sarah's fingers flew over the keyboard. She mumbled as she worked. You filed taxes last year, right? Yes. Melissa said she took them to an accountant because I was in the hospital. She clicked again. Her voice went sharp. Filed jointly, you and her. She listed herself as your caregiver. What? I sat up straighter. That's not possible. It gets worse. She claimed deductions for elder care. Thousands of dollars, all approved. Thought the. My breath felt too tight for my lungs. She hadn't just lied. She built an empire of deception with my name as its foundation. Sarah turned to me. Dad, this is elder fraud. I said nothing, just stared at the worn tile floor. She softened. I'm sorry, I know it's hard to believe. No, I said quietly. It's not hard, it's just disappointing. She didn't even need the money. She just wanted control. Sarah reached for her phone. I'm calling a lawyer. Not yet, I said, instinct kicking in. If we show our hand too early, she'll cover her tracks. I'll be discreet. She scrolled, tapped, and left a voicemail. Hi, this is Sarah Walters. I need to schedule a confidential consult regarding a possible case of financial elder abuse. Please don't return the call to this number. Email me instead. That afternoon, we walked in the backyard like nothing had changed. Melissa watched from the kitchen window, arms folded. She knows something's wrong, I said under my breath. Sarah nodded. Let her wonder. That's what guilt does. It makes people paranoid. She's already ahead of us. Then we get smarter. The lawyer replied by dusk. A private firm downtown. They offered an initial consult off the books. Sarah left Melissa a note, running errands, back by dinner. When she returned, she looked different, tighter, sharper. They're in, she said. They've seen this pattern before. Said it's textbook manipulation, medical isolation, legal control, and financial funneling. I leaned on the table. What do we do? They said don't confront her, not yet. Let her feel safe. Let her lie. The more she talks, the easier it'll be to catch her. We need proof, emails, voice recordings, legal filings. Then we make our move. Thought the. It wasn't the first time I'd waited behind enemy lines. I remembered recon missions in Korea. Silence was our only weapon. And patience. That was the kill shot. That night, Melissa came down with folded laundry and a smile too wide. Dad, she said sweetly, you and Sarah seemed cozy today. I'm glad she's here. I nodded. She's good company. She placed the shirts on my cot. You still need rest. Don't let her get you riled up with ideas. I'm not riled, I said, just grateful. She kissed my forehead, ice on my skin. Good. We're all just trying to help you, you know. I forced a smile. I know. When she left, Sarah whispered from the stairs, she's baiting you. She thinks she's still ahead, I said. She won't be for long. Closing thought. Melissa thought she'd buried the truth beneath signatures and silence. But what she didn't know was that her sister was about to dig it all up, and I was going to help her shovel. The truth doesn't disappear. It waits quiet, patient, locked in the places no one thinks to check. I just remembered something, I said, tapping my cane against the tile. Sarah looked up from her laptop. What? Your mother and I, we had a safety deposit box, downtown branch. We kept the originals there, the deed, the will, all of it. Her eyes lit up, and Melissa doesn't know about it. No, we opened it in '95. She was in college, too busy chasing internships and skipping Thanksgiving. Sarah grabbed her keys. Let's go. The bank was cold and quiet, the kind of silence money always demands. The clerk looked at me, then at Sarah. How can I help? I need access to my deposit box, under Walter B. Harding. ID. I handed over my worn license. He studied it, then tapped at his keyboard. Thumbprint verification, he said. I pressed my thumb to the scanner, a quiet ding. He smiled, right this way. Downstairs, it smelled like metal and carpet glue. Box 418, brass handle still dusty. My hands trembled as I turned the key. Inside, neat stacks of paper, old envelopes, and one leather folder. Sarah opened it carefully. Here the deed, she whispered. Walter and Helen Harding, sole owners, no power of attorney clause. And the will, I asked. She flipped again. Last updated 2018, split between me and Melissa, nothing about her controlling anything. I exhaled slow, checked the signature. She held it up next to the forged, one Melissa had used. Her jaw tightened. It's not even close. Melissa's version looks like someone tried to copy yours but failed. Thought the. My wife had always insisted we protect the originals. Trust is earned, she used to say, but documentation wins the fight. Sarah pulled out a manila envelope. Insurance policy, veteran benefits, all untouched. We sat there for a moment, surrounded by the smell of paper and age. Then she looked at me. Dad, this is fraud and not just casual forgery. This is criminal intent. She's been banking on you never waking up to see it. I nodded slowly. She thinks I'm dying in pieces, that I don't notice the walls closing in. Well, Sarah said, sliding everything back into the envelope, she just underestimated the wrong two people. Back at the house, Sarah made digital copies of everything, high-res scans, timestamps, backups. Then she encrypted them into a flash drive and uploaded to a cloud account under a fake name. I'm sending these to the lawyer tonight, she said. We need the paper trail airtight before she smells smoke. That evening, Melissa knocked on the basement door. We're ordering Thai. Want anything, Dad? I looked at Sarah. She shook her head. No thanks, I called back. Not hungry. Suit yourself, she chirped, then walked away. I heard her footsteps pause, a long silence, then a soft voice muffled by the floorboards. I don't trust her, Melissa said to someone. She's too nosy. Then Tom, should we move up the timeline? My skin went cold. Thought they were planning something, again, and this time it wouldn't just be paperwork. Sarah came to my cot. They're scared. I saw her peeking through my emails this afternoon. I gritted my teeth. We have to move faster. We will, she said. Tomorrow we record the confrontation quietly, legally. Let them damn themselves. And after that, we expose it publicly, no more shadows. Closing thought. Melissa had forged a future that wasn't hers and built it on the assumption I'd never resist. But now, the originals were in my hands, and nothing scares a thief more than paper they can't erase. A liar can hold their story steady until the weight of the truth starts pressing down. Dinner was quiet, forks scraping plates, the clink of ice in water glasses. Melissa poured herself wine, second glass in 20 minutes. Sarah passed me the salt. Melissa intercepted. Too much sodium, Dad. Remember what the doctor said. I didn't flinch. Remind me, which doctor was that? Melissa froze for half a beat. Dr. Hamill, last year, before the fall. There was no Dr. Hamill, Sarah said evenly. I checked his records. You never scheduled that visit. Melissa's smile thinned. Well, maybe he forgot. That's kind of the point. Sarah's voice dropped. Be careful. Melissa snapped. I am careful, unlike some people who think just because they have a few emails they know everything. Thought the. There it was, a crack, small but loud enough to hear, and loud enough to record. Later that night I sat in my corner, the old shoebox open again. Inside, nestled beneath old receipts and spare hearing aid batteries, was my voice recorder. One click, it blinked red. I placed it near the vent. Upstairs, Melissa's voice drifted down, sharp and bitter. I swear Sarah's playing detective. It's ridiculous. A pause, then the voice of her friend Janice, I think. You said your dad was gone, like mentally. I mean he is, Melissa said, laughing. He asked me what day it was twice last week, said he missed Mom's birthday. She's been dead 7 years. My jaw tightened. He can't manage a house anymore, she continued. I mean, it's not like he's ever going back. Once the paperwork clears, we're selling. End of story. Thought he. She thought grief was forgetfulness. That mourning was madness. That silence meant surrender. I stopped the recorder, rewound, played the part again. Once the paperwork clears, we're selling. End of story. That was enough to break her narrative in half. The next morning, I handed the recorder to Sarah. She plugged it into her laptop, played the clip, and covered her mouth. She's so confident, she said, like it's already done. She's forgotten one thing, I said. I'm not done yet. Melissa breezed into the basement an hour later, phone in hand. Dad, can I talk to you? I looked up from my crossword. Of course. She sat, crossed her legs. Listen, I know things have been tense with Sarah around. She gets a little worked up sometimes, thinks everything is a crisis. She's always been the careful one, I said. Melissa smiled politely. Well, she's making you nervous. You've been confused, and I don't want that for you. I nodded slowly. I appreciate your concern. She touched my hand. You've been through a lot and you forget things like Mom's birthday. I met her eyes. You're right, I do forget things. Her face softened. But not this, I said. Not you saying I'm incompetent. Not you laughing about it to Janice. Not you claiming I can't manage the house I built. The color drained from her cheeks. What are you talking about? I remember everything, and now so does the recorder. Thought he. It was the first time I saw her scared, not of punishment, but of exposure. Her smile was gone. Her control cracked wide open. She stood, grabbing her phone. I don't know what Sarah's been putting in your head, but this is getting toxic. Maybe you should talk to a professional about memory care. I leaned back. Maybe I should talk to a judge instead. She stormed out. The door slammed. Sarah appeared a moment later. You okay? I nodded. She's unraveling. She's going to push harder now. Let her. Closing thought. Melissa spent so long crafting a story that painted me as broken, fatting. But she forgot, the mind doesn't vanish all at once. And the parts that stay, they remember everything, especially betrayal. Sometimes the truth doesn't need to be forced. It just needs a stage and a liar eager to perform. Sarah stood beside me, holding her phone out like it was a loaded gun. He needs to hear this, she told the lawyer. Over speaker, the audio crackled, Melissa's voice smug and polished. He can't manage a house anymore. Once the paperwork clears, we're selling. End of story. The lawyer, Mr. Harden, sat in silence. Then he exhaled. You've got her. This is clear manipulation. Fraud, maybe even abuse, depending on the medical statements. She told my sister I had memory loss, I said, my voice steady. She said I didn't know what day it was, but I've recorded every date since my fall. Every one. Mr. Harden nodded slowly. You're mentally competent, and we now have at least 2 pieces of audio where she refers to you as in decline, while maneuvering to sell your property. Sarah leaned forward. So what happens now? He held up a finger. One thing, let her make the next move. Don't press yet. Let her get confident. Let her hang herself. That night, Sarah sat in the kitchen uploading files to the shared cloud. She looked up. Melissa, iPhone is still linked to our old family cloud. I blinked. She never removed it. Nope, probably forgot, she smirked, or assumed no one else would check. 2 hours later, Sarah walked in holding her phone. Dad, you need to hear this. She hit play. Melissa's voice came through, frantic, tired, maybe drunk. Once we sell, we're out. He'll be fine in a facility, just needs a bed and someone to change him. Pause. We'll wire the funds to the account you opened. I don't care if Sarah throws a fit. He's not coming back. Thought the. She said it so casually, like I was already gone, like I was furniture to be moved or tossed. I stared at the floor. The laminate down here peeled at the corners. Cold seeped in from the foundation. That call, that's it, I whispered. She wasn't just covering her tracks, she was planning my erasure. Sarah's eyes were glassy, but she stayed calm. She thinks you're a burden, but you're a witness, and now a plaintiff. The next morning, I heard Melissa laughing on the phone upstairs. No, seriously. The house is already in my name. He signed it ages ago, trust me, it's handled. Handled, that word again. She didn't see me, but I saw her, reclined on the couch sipping something iced, barefoot, entitled. I imagined telling her then, throwing it all in her face. But Mr. Harden's words echoed, let her hang herself. Later that afternoon, Sarah whispered, she booked an appointment with a real estate agent. Thursday. She's really doing it, I said. She thinks she's untouchable. Then it's time she meets the ground. Thought the. I never raised my voice at Melissa growing up. I thought kindness would earn respect. But respect, I've learned, is only offered to those who hold the deed, literally and figuratively. That night, Sarah backed up every audio file onto 3 drives. One she gave to Mr. Harden, one she hid in my old fishing tackle box, and one she mailed to herself, unopened, to serve as legal time-stamped proof. Dad, she said, you're going to win this, not with anger but with evidence. I nodded. We won't need to say a word. Her own voice will be the rope. Closing thought. Melissa's downfall wouldn't come from a fight. It would come from her belief that no one was listening. But I was. I always had been. And now the world would too. The loudest truth is often read aloud, on paper, in front of those who never expected to hear it. We held it in the den, the same room Melissa used to color in as a child, back when she still called me Daddy. Now she sat stiffly on the edge of the leather chair, arms crossed. Her husband hovered by the door, shifting weight from one foot to the other. Sarah stood behind me, calm, composed, holding the manila folder like it was a sword. Melissa glanced around. So, what's this about, another guilt trip? Sarah ignored the jab. Dad asked me to call this meeting. It's about the will. Melissa scoffed. The will's already handled, he and I. Sarah cut in. No, Melissa, that was your version. This is the real one. She placed the folder in Melissa's lap. Melissa opened it casually, then slower. Her face tightened. These signatures, this is dated 8 years ago. Sarah nodded. Mom and Dad updated it after her cancer went into remission. You were on vacation. We met with the notary and lawyer together. Melissa flipped pages like she was digging for treasure that didn't exist. It says everything is to be split evenly between both of us. Correct, I said, but that's not today's purpose. She blinked. What? Sarah reached into her bag, pulled out a second folder. Today is about this. Melissa leaned forward. Her fingers hesitated. This is Dad's new will, Sarah said. Updated with full legal authority, reviewed by the family lawyer, witnessed and notarized as of this morning. Melissa's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. You're giving everything to her, she asked, voice cracking. To Sarah, I said clearly. All assets, the house, the pension, the savings, everything. Her mouth opened, then shut. This is elder abuse, she snapped. You're coercing him, he's confused. The lawyer, seated at the far end of the room, spoke up. I've reviewed Mr. Weston's medical evaluations. His memory and cognition are intact. I've spoken with him privately. This decision is his and his alone. Melissa's eyes darted to me. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing truth over betrayal, I said. She stood abruptly. The folder fell to the floor. You can't do this. You can't rewrite history just because you're bitter. I didn't rewrite anything, I said, but you tried to. Thought the. I wanted to scream, to ask her when I stopped being her father and started being a transaction. But some words are more powerful when left unsaid, sealed in silence and ink. Melissa pointed at Sarah. You manipulated him. Sarah calmly replied, I helped him. You isolated him, lied about him, forged his name. We have audio, paper trails, and a cloud backup. Don't forget that. Melissa's husband tried to interject. Let's all just calm down. Not your show, I said firmly. Melissa looked at me one last time. You'll regret this. I met her gaze. No, but you might. She stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots across the hardwood. Her husband followed, saying nothing. The door closed, quiet returned. I looked at Sarah, she looked back. Was that enough? No, I said, but it was necessary. Closing thought. Justice doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with a pen, a signature, and the sound of a door closing behind someone who never expected to lose. Some knocks echo louder than others, not because of their sound, but because of what follows when the door opens. It was a Tuesday morning, overcast, a chill hung in the air, the kind that settles in your bones and doesn't leave. Sarah sat by the window, sipping tea. I was upstairs now. No more stairs to climb down, no mold creeping up the walls. Then came the knock. Not a tap, a command. 3 steady pounds on Melissa's front door. Sarah looked at me. I didn't say a word. We watched from the upstairs landing as Melissa answered. 2 sheriff's deputies stood there, crisp uniforms, solemn faces. Melissa Weston. Yes, her voice cracked. We're following up on a complaint filed by Mr. Arthur Weston, the deputy said. We have a warrant to review financial records and property filings under your name. Her hand went to her chest. What? This is a mistake. Sarah and I stepped into view. Melissa's eyes widened. You set this up, she hissed. No, I said. You did, I just told the truth. Inside, the deputies laid out the paperwork. A formal investigation. Allegations of forgery, elder fraud, unlawful misrepresentation of legal documents, and mail tampering. Melissa looked around like she could claw her way out of it. I never forged anything. One deputy placed the original deed from the safety deposit box beside her version, side by side. Explain the signatures, he said. That's it must be old. We had both reviewed by a handwriting analyst, the deputy interrupted. Yours doesn't match your father's legal handwriting on file. She tried to play the victim. I was just trying to help him. He was losing things, he fell, he wasn't himself. I spoke. I remember every date, every insult, every lie. You called me baggage on the phone, said I belonged in a facility. That voicemail is evidence now. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. You'd really do this to me? No, Melissa, you did this to yourself. Thought the. She once made me birthday cards with glitter and crayons. Now she forged my signature in silence. I never imagined the same hands could hold both love and deception. The deputies didn't arrest her, not then. They collected the documents, copied her phone, and warned her not to interfere with the investigation. She wept real tears, or maybe just loud ones. But the sheriff left with a promise. This doesn't go away quietly. Within 2 weeks, the fallout began. Melissa's employer, a local accounting firm, placed her on leave pending the case. Her husband packed a suitcase on a Thursday and didn't return by Sunday. She called Sarah. Sarah didn't pick up. She texted me once. Can we talk? I didn't reply. That same week, I left the house. I packed my things quietly, slowly, no shouting, no ceremony. Sarah drove me across town to a modest, sunlit cottage she'd found. 2 bedrooms, no basement. As I stepped through the front door, I didn't look back. Closing thought. Some people call it karma. Others call it justice. I just call it walking out the front door on your own terms and knowing you'll never be shoved down the stairs again. A house isn't wood and nails, it's the echo of laughter, the creak in the floor you learned by heart. But sometimes, letting go is the only way to remember it right. The porch steps groaned beneath my cane, just like they always had. My knees didn't take kindly to changes in weather, but today I didn't mind the ache. I needed to feel it. The sun stretched over the roof like it knew what was coming. Warm, soft, a kind of farewell. Sarah stood at the front door, arms full of photo albums. "You sure about this, Dad?" she asked. I looked out over the yard, that old maple tree where Melissa used to swing, the cracked bird bath my wife insisted on keeping even after the birds stopped visiting. "I'm sure," I said. "Some things you don't take with you, you just honor them by leaving them whole." Inside, the rooms were nearly empty. We'd spent 2 days packing, not rushing, just remembering. Sarah sat cross-legged in the living room, flipping through a faded album. "You guys were really happy here, huh?" I nodded. "We were, before it all got complicated." She held up a photo of me holding both girls on my lap. Christmas, 1998. Melissa had a candy cane in each hand. Sarah's hair was a crooked mess of barrettes. "I used to think we'd all grow old together here," I said quietly. "But life has other plans." We donated most of it, the furniture, the books, even the old record player that still smelled like dust in Sinatra. I kept only what mattered: a shoebox of letters from my wife, her locket, the flag from her memorial. And the deed. Not the forged one Melissa tried to use, the real one, now signed over to Sarah. $1.9 million. That's what the realtor said. Market was good, location even better. But to me it wasn't money, it was restoration. Thought D. Melissa didn't just try to steal a house. She tried to rewrite a life, paint over memories and cash out my dignity. But she forgot. I remember everything. The trust was airtight. David, the family lawyer, had reviewed every clause. Sarah would manage it, not for luxury, for security, for legacy. Melissa got nothing. Not out of spite. Out of consequence. The day we handed over the keys, Sarah stood next to me in the driveway. "You want to say goodbye?" she asked. I looked up at the second window on the left, our old bedroom. The curtains were still there, my wife's floral ones. "I already have," I said. Still, I stepped back onto the porch one last time. Ran my hand over the railing I built with my bare hands. Whispered "thank you," and walked away. Closing thought. Some goodbyes aren't about loss. They're about release. I didn't lose a house. I reclaimed a life. And I carried my wife's memory not in walls, but in the quiet, steady steps of moving forward. Some truths don't need to shout. They just need to be printed, black ink on white paper, for the world to see who you really are. The paper came out on a Wednesday. I'll never forget the sound of Sarah unfolding it across the kitchen table, her hands shaking, not from fear, from justice finally breathing air. Front page. Elder betrayal. Daughter accused of fraud in $1.09 M property scheme. There it was. Melissa's name. My name. Everything laid bare: the forged deed, the basement, the voicemail, the investigation. No more whispers, no more cover stories. Just the truth. By Thursday, the town knew. We lived in a place where everybody still bought newspapers, where church bulletins and bake sale flyers mattered, where the barbershop was louder than the courthouse. Melissa's world started to shrink. The church choir director, a woman who once called her an angel in heels, left her off the newsletter. Her bridge group stopped texting. The local market, where she used to flirt her way to discounts, rang her up in silence. I didn't gloat. I just sat on my porch, mug in hand, listening to the wind through the wind chimes Sarah hung last week. I heard everything. The shift. The reckoning. Sarah pulled up outside the community center that Friday. "You ready for this?" she asked. I straightened my collar. "Let's speak plain, no dramatics, just facts." We walked in together, not to protest, not to accuse, but to share. A quiet crowd filled the folding chairs, elderly couples, social workers, even the mayor tucked in the back row with his coat folded neatly in his lap. Sarah spoke first. "My father was almost erased, legally, emotionally, physically." She looked at me. "But he fought quietly, patiently, and he never gave up." A few nods, one soft amen. I took the mic. "My daughter put me in a basement," I began. But what hurt more was the silence, the disbelief, the way people assumed age meant absence. Eyes welled. I held up the original will, the bank receipts. "She told the world I couldn't remember, but I remembered everything, and I kept records." Thought they. They expect old men to forget, to give up, to sit quietly while the world rearranges the truth. But I wasn't born quiet. I was trained to wait. After the talk, people came up one by one. A woman hugged me. "My brother tried to take Mom's house last year. No one believed her." A veteran gripped my hand tight. "Semper Fi," he whispered. An eighth grader asked for a selfie. Sarah laughed through tears. "They're not clapping for revenge," she said. "They're clapping because truth finally stood up." Back home, a note waited in the mailbox. No name, just 5 words on a torn grocery list. "You did the right thing." Closing thought. Justice doesn't always wear a robe or bang a gavel. Sometimes it looks like a folded newspaper on your porch and a stranger's handshake that says, "I see you." Some wounds don't need stitching. They need space. Not every goodbye deserves a reply. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with my name in blue ink that tried too hard to be careful. Melissa's handwriting, still neat, still deliberate. Sarah handed it to me without a word, her lips pressed tight, eyes searching mine for a cue. "Do you want me to open it?" she asked softly. I shook my head. No, if she has something to say, I should hear it, one last time. I sat by the fireplace. Sarah lit it for me earlier, said the weather was turning. The flames crackled like they knew what was coming. I unfolded the letter. 3 pages. Page 1 was all apologies. I didn't mean for it to go that far. "I thought you'd understand." I panicked. Page 2 turned the corner. Blame. "You always favored Sarah. You never let me make real decisions. You made me feel small." Page 3, regret. "I lost everything. People stare at me. Please, can we talk?" "No, Melissa. We talked when it mattered. And you chose silence." Thought the. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry it didn't work. Sorry the mask cracked. Sorry I didn't die in that basement. I placed the letter on my lap. Folded it gently. Watched the flames dance higher in the hearth. Sarah entered with tea, paused when she saw me staring at the pages. "You okay?" I nodded. "Do you have a match?" She raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "Closure doesn't always come from a reply," I said. "Sometimes it comes from letting the words burn before they burn you." I lit the corner. The flame crept slow at first, then devoured the ink with purpose. Melissa's apologies curled inward. Her excuses blackened and cracked. The paper shriveled to ash, no louder than a sigh. I didn't cry. Just breathed. Long, deep, clean. Sarah placed her hand on my shoulder. "You did the hard part already. This is just the coda." Outside, the wind carried the last of autumn through the trees. Leaves fell without asking for forgiveness. Closing thought. She wanted closure, but I already had mine. In the silence after the fire, in the space between apology and truth, in knowing I didn't have to carry what she refused to own. They thought the basement would be my ending. But endings are just beginnings we claim for ourselves. The cottage is small, 2 bedrooms, creaky floorboards, and windows that fog in the morning. But it's mine. Bought with peace, not power. Sarah helped me pick it. It sits just down the road from her place, close enough for dinner, far enough for dignity. Most mornings, I sit on the porch with a cup of black coffee and a quiet that feels earned. The lake ripples like it's listening. Birds call from the trees like old friends. Sometimes I think I hear my wife's laugh in the wind, the same way she laughed when I burned the bacon that morning in '87, or when I forgot where I parked and it turned out to be right in front of the house. "I didn't forget I was testing you," I said. She'd winked. "You passed barely." Thought the. I still speak to her in the mornings. Not out loud, just inside. Where memory doesn't fade, it sharpens. Melissa hasn't written again. No calls, no apologies. I'm not waiting for one. Forgiveness is something I gave myself the day I stepped off that basement stairwell for the last time. She took something from me, time, dignity, trust. But I took something back. My name. My story. The truth. Sarah visits often. Brings pie or a new plant, or just her laughter. She sits on the porch rail while I sit in the rocker. Sometimes we talk about the past, sometimes we don't. Today, she handed me an envelope. A thank you card from a man in town. "Your talk at the center helped my mom," he wrote. "She finally spoke up, she's safe now." Thought the. What we survive quietly, someone else might still be enduring silently. But silence can be broken, even with just a whisper. There's a rose bush by the porch. Sarah planted it for Mom. It blooms every spring, stubborn as ever. Bright red, defiant. I sit beside it and breathe. Long, deep, full. The sun sets slower here. Less rush, less noise. No more secrets. No more stairs creaking above my head while I wonder what being taken. Only sky. And the sound of peace coming home. Closing thought. My daughter said, "You can sleep in the basement." But I chose the porch. The lake. The light. Because some old men don't fade into silence. We rise one step at a time. Until we sit where we belong. In the warmth of our own story.